Welcome back, everybody. Derrick Soo, your 2022 Oakland mayoral candidate. Today I'm going to talk about post-COVID business. Right now, we're still stuck deep in the middle of the COVID-19 crisis. We're losing businesses left and right here in the Bay Area, and we're losing some institutional businesses that just can't keep up with what's happening. And it's not that they don't want to be in business, it's that their rent has gone to a place where they can't recover. And that's been one of the biggest problems throughout the Bay Area right now. The insane rents that are being asked by the greedy landlords, the slumlords, the developers, they're not your friends. They're in it for themselves, people. And when you complain about the high cost of your groceries, the high cost of your dinner, high cost of clothing, the high cost of everything, it's because only a small group of people are making money. And they're making the money through the business. And the business has no choice but to either pay those rents to open the doors, and they have no control over that. And the greedy landlords just keep increasing and increasing. And so they fatten themselves up really well. While those of us, like the business owners, are left to suffer and endure the complaints of us as we complain about the high price and the high cost of everything. So the solution that I'm bringing to Oakland is in my PATH program. Permanent access to housing. Not only just housing, but this is housing for businesses. And that starts with the floating communities in Oakland's Middle Harbor development that I'm proposing that we bring to Oakland. And that's going to bring in really low cost, number one, housing, and number two, reasonable rents for businesses to restart. No, we're not going to PATH these big corporations, national chains. No, we're not doing any of that. These are incubators for small business, the small businesses of Oakland, because those large companies, those chains have forced out so many of our residents. And the high cost of just the startup. If you imagine a restaurant, just an average restaurant nowadays having to pay $15,000 to $20,000 a month in rent, that's a lot of meals that have to be served in order to cover just that basic overhead, not to mention the cost of employees, the cost of food, the utilities, the lights, the insurance, everything else. So we have to find a way to roll back time, so to speak. And rolling back time means rolling back costs. And so we have to roll back costs to where it's affordable for folks once again. And that's where my floating community comes in handy, because those floating communities, those semi-retired cruise ships, we're not asking any of the cruise companies to have any of the businesses or other things that they normally have on a cruise. No, we're going to fill those up with our own programs. The ship itself is all that we want. We want the maintenance crew, we want a security crew, we want a management crew. That's it. But then the spaces for entertainment, theater, dinners, you name it. If you've been on a cruise ship, you know that there's a wide variety of stores, shops, restaurants, and all sorts of entertainment. Same applies. Just that instead of the cruise ship company making the money, we're going to have our own citizens, residents, setting up businesses and operations that help incubate those small businesses until they are generating enough income where they can actually move off of those floating communities and into the community at large in regular retail spaces, because it's so hard. It's 2 to 5 years just to get established, and with the high cost of rents and leases throughout city of Oakland, and the greed from these developers, the real estate companies, the mismanagement property owners, and the slumlords. They all are the ones getting rich, and we're getting poorer and more, and we struggle more and more every day because of those folks. And so PATH gets rid of that. PATH removes those developers. PATH removes the real estate agents and the mismanagers of property and the slumlords too. So this is a great program, and we're inviting city and private industry to work as a partnership, not as individuals. City's not going to be profiting at the expense of those customers on board that floating community. And then we're actually helping save an industry that is truly on the ropes right now because of COVID-19. And so that's what PATH is all about. Restoration of homes, restoration of lives, restoration of an economy and of this entire region. Because the faster we can get businesses back open, back online, people getting to these businesses, we all benefit. We all greatly benefit. We help restore normalcy to our area. So these are all important factors as we move forward through COVID-19. And so what PATH does, we like I said, we no longer have all of those services provided by the cruise ship industry. We actually have our own people starting new businesses with mentors and teachers and everybody there to help you become successful, because that's the bottom line. We need you to become successful and then also be able to expand from the floating community onto the Oakland at large. And so once you're able to do that, and that really helps you, because it keeps your costs at an absolute minimum, so your chances of success are greatly enhanced. And then you have folks who are in your industry who are helping you and mentoring you along the way. So these are all important elements to help restore the financial economy of the Bay Area. Here we were once one of the top economies, and now since COVID's really made it very difficult for businesses to stay open. We're losing hundreds, if not thousands, of businesses every week, and big institutions. So it's a problem, and we have to look at solutions. And right now the problem is we don't have our leaders looking at solutions. The sad part is we know that city of Oakland is broke, just like every other city. They're broke. But what makes Oakland worse is that we've had such a long historical run of poor management and leadership here in Oakland. Oakland is literally on the verge of bankruptcy. Literally, we are on the verge of bankruptcy. Libby won't say it, but we are. Go look at the finances of Oakland. It's a mess, and it goes back decades. And so we can't rely on the current batch of politicians to help us. They can't even help themselves. So unfortunately, City of Oakland's not going to be able to bail anybody out. Those of you that own property and are asking for help from the city, it ain't going to happen. City's broke. City can't even afford to hardly keep its own doors open. So they're not going to help you. They're not going to help the renters, unfortunately. And it doesn't get any better when you apply to the county. County, all they're going to do is just temporarily hold that off. And pretty soon what we're going to see is a rash of evictions, which is going to start very soon. September 3rd is when most of the moratoriums start dropping off here in the Bay Area. So shortly after that, it's anticipated nationwide that there's going to be 28 million evictions happening. 28 million evictions. Wow, that's going to devastate everything. We're not going to see recovery happening very quickly. Not with what the politicians are doing right now. And then even once you get past the county can't afford to do anything because they're broke too. They're relying on our taxes. If we're not paying taxes like we are like currently, they can't afford anything. So we jump to the state. When we jump to the state, state's broke. State's trying to do everything too. We're getting some things paid for by federal government, through FEMA, but not enough. And then we see both sides, Dems and Republicans, fighting, arguing, but not for us, for their own selves, for their own party. So what's the answer, folks? It sounds like everything's pointing at massive bankruptcy for everybody. I hate to say it, but my economist friends have said there's going to be a wave of bankruptcies across this country like the world's never seen. And it's not just in this country. It's in a lot of countries. Every country is struggling right now with COVID and the loss of revenues and the inability to create new resources of funds. And so this is going to be a huge mess. And it is a huge mess. But with PATH, this starts the restoration of the Bay Area, of especially Oakland. This also opens up housing opportunities. This opens up business opportunities. This opens up new recreational opportunities. There's a lot of things that can actually transform and really help speed along Oakland and Alameda counties' recovery through PATH. But PATH for Business is going to be necessary because those are going to be the incubators for our small businesses, which are actually going to eventually come back to the city at large, move into the standard real estate and properties to do business. And then this gives them the advantage of not having to struggle and as much as if you were doing it pre-COVID. Because if you're doing it pre-COVID, I'm sorry, but the folks that opened up businesses and everything, I really feel for you. Because I've been there. I had that happen to me back in the 90s. I had just opened up a premier car stereo store in Alameda. 25 days later, the Iraq War started. Yeah. I went to 3 customers a week. And at that time, before that store opened, I had regular clientele. My regular clientele, I had 56 to 60 cars a week rolling through there. And I was one of the premier dealers in the country for a system that General Motors bought, known as OnStar. I was one of the original 44 national dealers that operated and sold that system before it became OnStar. So I know about business. I know about struggling. I ended up with that business. My partner was more financially able to keep that open. I had advised him to just go ahead and close it because I was closing out my portion. I got out of the business. And then he eventually did. He lost a lot of money, unfortunately. He threw a lot of good money after bad money. Yeah, that's all that I can say. It was throwing tons of good money after bad money. And it is hot out here, folks, so believe me, past few days it's been pretty miserable hot. But we're all in the hot seat right now, and we got to find a way to cool that down. My path plan is one of the things that I plan on bringing to Oakland, and this will speed up our recovery. It really will speed up our recovery because we keep our costs, expenses, everything as low as possible. We're not asking for any taxes to be raised. In fact, City of Oakland, folks, you're not on the hook for anything with this program. There's no long-term contracts. We're committed to certain things and elements. I don't negotiate those kind of stupid contracts that our past administrators have, and then put our taxpayers on the hook for millions of dollars like Alameda County did with that Coliseum behind me. And we have no idea how that's going to get paid off. And so it's poor decisions by past administrations, past leaders. I can't tell you how frustrated I am with things that have happened. And the nonchalant attitudes of Mayor Libby Schaaf, London Breed, Sam Liccardo, all your leaders, they have no ideas. They don't have any solutions. They're not truly working on any solutions because they know at their levels there aren't any solutions, and they're going to be out of office shortly anyway, so they don't care, and that's the bottom line. So folks, we need path. We need path badly. Path for the business. While you're not going to have ownership of any property, but you will have ownership of your business brand, and everything else. And so once you transfer your well-established business into Oakland at large, you become a regular citizen that everybody says, wow, look at how successful they got. And it was through this program that you became successful. And I'm hoping that this program gets a lot of attention from many other cities. I'm also working with several cities already on my path plan. I've been talking to city councils, I've been talking to city leaders about my path plan. And it's really interesting at who's asking the questions. And the answers that they're getting, they're very happy with, and they're starting to get behind it. So we'll see what happens with PATH. But we need PATH to really take off because it's a way around the capitalist real estate market that's been harming us for decades and decades. Stealing our wealth, stealing our dreams, our hopes, breaking up families. PATH reverses that. Let me say that again. PATH reverses that. Thanks for joining me today, folks. We'll be right back.